Welcome to our virtual graduation ceremony. It's class of 2020. As you're watching the video, you will see this is where it all started. Your path down Colonial Drive, the memories that you've made, your journey, your friendships, the good times, the bad times. This is where you started when you were 14, and now you're leaving as young adults. This is your journey. This is who you are. This is your Manchester roots. This is where you will always be a Hawk and call your second home. Congratulations to you. Good evening and welcome to the 44th commencement exercises of Manchester Township High School. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please join Jade Wickham, Executive Board Vice President for the Student Government, for the flag salute. Jade will be attending Temple University, double majoring in criminal justice and psychology.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, the national anthem will be sung by the Manchester Township High School Honors Choir under the direction of Mr. Dwight Weaver.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Carl Bermudez, class president, will welcome you on behalf of the graduating seniors. Carl will be attending Rutgers University, where he will study computer science.
It is my pleasure to welcome the Board of Education, our superintendent, family, friends, faculty, staff, and future alumni to one of the most unique graduation ceremonies hosted in Manchester Township. On behalf of our class, I would first like to thank teachers, parents, and anyone who has supported us, especially during the pandemic. Although it is online, we are gathered here to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of the class of 2020. Our hard work and determination has allowed us to graduate as we are now. High school might have been the fastest 4 years of my life, but in those 4 years, we all have made friendships and memories that will last a lifetime. We may not have been able to partake in some of the best senior events, but we are all in this together, and our class will never be forgotten. Although we are parting from Manchester Township, graduation means we are one step closer to reaching our dreams, and I wish the best of luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to recognize our senior students who will be serving our country in the military. Marine Corps, Kyle Macnack. Navy, Sia Jenkins. Navy, Jack Lindstrom. Army, Nathaniel Hills. Air Force, Jacob Josephix. Congratulations and thank you for serving our country. It is also my honor to introduce the top 10 students of the class of 2020 in reverse order. 10, Brooke Olson. She will be attending Seton Hall University, studying biology with a pre-med track. 9, Honey Stooks will be attending Notre Dame, majoring in biochemistry. 8, Christina Soto will be attending Rutgers University, majoring in biology. 7, Crystal Sears will be attending Cedar Crest College, studying forensic science. 6, Adriana Santos will be attending Ocean County College, the New Jersey STARS program, studying political science. 5, Patrick Vox will also be attending Ocean County College, New Jersey STARS program, and he will be studying accounting. 4, Carl Bermudez will be attending Rutgers University, studying computer science. 3, Jack Lynch will be attending Seton Hall University, and he will be studying accounting. Congratulations. Now I will introduce the salutatorian and the valedictorian of the class of 2020. It is my pleasure to introduce Nina Palmiato, who has distinguished herself as a salutatorian, being ranked second in the class of 2020. Nina will be attending Stevens Institute of Technology, where she will study chemical engineering.
Welcome, fellow graduates of the class of 2020. Today we are here to commemorate years of hard work and dedication. It is time that we give ourselves credit for all we have accomplished, even in the face of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. We have reached this milestone of graduating, and under any circumstance, that is worth celebrating. It is bittersweet that we find ourselves standing in caps and gowns, unable to attend the graduation that we have always hoped for. While we may not get a traditional celebration, our sacrifice and persistence over these past years deserves to be recognized. What seems like just yesterday, we were guilty of impatiently waiting for the 138 bell to finally ring. But looking back, we've also realized that it wasn't so bad after all. As freshmen, we found ourselves excited yet nervous about what lied beyond the walls of high school. As time passed, we grew less anxious and we began to create some of our best memories here. Sophomore year, we started to break barriers and embrace all that high school had to offer. By junior year, we grew confident knowing we were officially upperclassmen taking on new responsibilities. We began to define our passions and acknowledge plans for the future. Since then, we have all become our own person with the support of family, friends, and faculty who have all stuck by our side. We intended for senior year to be exciting and easy, but life does not always present the destination with a simple path. After what feels like ages ago, but is now the blink of an eye, we stand here reminiscing on the friendships, clubs, and sports that defined our high school experience. We have missed out on a traditional graduation ceremony, but I believe that we are never presented with situations that we cannot handle. We should be incredibly proud of ourselves, and even though this is not exactly how we picture this exciting day, we have devoted too much time and effort to let this special moment go to waste. With challenge comes change, and we have proven ourselves to be a resilient generation. Our senior year may have been cut short, but I assure you that our class's legacy does not stop here. Congratulations, class of 2020. It's been an unforgettable 4 years, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. It is my pleasure to introduce Dea Buwag, valedictorian of the class of 2020, who has distinguished herself as being ranked number 1 in the class. Dea will be attending Ramapo College with plans on majoring in nursing.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to open by first saying thank you to all of the teachers, staff, parents, guardians, and peers who have made our schooling experience in the Manchester District memorable and special. Although situations are beyond ideal at this moment, we should nevertheless give honor to the accomplishments achieved by the students in the class of 2020 these past 4 years. Fellow classmates, we first entered the halls of MTHS as anticipating freshmen, waiting to see where this new journey called high school would take us. However, today, we not only come to celebrate the end of an era, but a new beginning as well. A new chapter in our lives is emerging. How will you continue your story? Many of you may choose to go to college, some will join the military, and others will choose the workforce. Wherever you choose to go, remember that your decisions today will be part of bettering your tomorrows. Life is by no means easy, but you are strong enough to overcome every curveball that comes at you. Each one of us has the potential to make a difference in our community and society. However, we are the ones who choose if we want to be part of that change. I challenge you, fellow classmates, to walk with courage, to run towards your dreams, and to face trials head-on. Each one of us can achieve success. However, we need to take that first step. There will be times of confusion, doubt, fear, and misunderstanding, but do not let those deter you from reaching your full potential. Continue to strive, not settling for mediocrity, because you know that you are destined for greater. I leave you with a quote that the famous Dr. Seuss once said, "You're off to great places, today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way." Class of 2020, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations on concluding another chapter in your life. Now it is time to make the most of your future. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Dea. And now I would like to introduce the senior class officers. You've already met Senior Class President Carl Bermudez. I would like to reintroduce him along with the other senior class officers. Vice President Alexa Bachonsky. Alexa will be attending Monmouth University, and she will be majoring in business and marketing. Secretary Gabrielle Wetzel will be attending Bloomsburg University, majoring in special ed, early childhood education. Publicist Ryan Sognes. Ryan will be attending Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and will study aerospace engineering.
I would like to take this final opportunity on behalf of myself and the class of 2020 to thank you, Mrs. Kelly, and Mrs. White for an amazing senior year.
Although this was not our perfect senior year, we would like to thank you for going out of your way to make us feel appreciated and loved.
I would like to thank the superintendent and the Board of Education for supporting the senior class throughout our 4 years. Ryan will now announce our senior class gift.
On behalf of the class of 2020, we would like to thank you for the memories and relationships built throughout our high school career. The class of 2020 will be leaving spirit banners, which will be displayed outside our school.
Good evening, class of 2020. We are honored to be a part of this unique ceremony and to be making history with you. But we are even more honored and proud to have been your advisors for the past 4 years. Your class has worked hard, displayed strength and perseverance, and come together during a time of crisis to help and support one another. During this pandemic, you have remained steadfast in your goals, and you have not let the situation get the best of you, which is a true testament to the amount of integrity, grit, and determination that makes the class of 2020 so special.
Think of how much you have grown and the knowledge you have gained over the past 4 years. You have learned to adapt and adjust, to be resilient. As you proceed into the world, we hope you maintain the same strength and determination that will continue to push you to achieve any and all goals you set forth for yourself. Be bold, courageous, and always be your best. And although you didn't have the typical senior year, know that you've been learning real-life skills that are going to be a major benefit to our society in the future.
You are a class of leaders, artists, athletes, dancers, singers, scientists, teachers, and so many other types of talent. Some of you are embarking on the college journey, and others bravely entering the military. Some of you are going to benefit our society by becoming a tradesman or woman or go into the workforce. And some of you haven't decided what path you want to follow. Regardless of your choice, know that you always have one. Set your goals high and always follow your dreams. And please know that the world is an amazing, loving, beautiful place, and it is waiting for you with open arms.
Morning after morning, you have heard the daily words of wisdom, and afterwards you always hear the phrase, make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. The choices you have made over the course of your life had led you here today. You chose to work hard, to pass your classes, and to graduate high school. Now it's time for you to make choices as adults, and believe it or not, the whole world is hoping you make productive decisions. Our lives are dependent on your generation's success, and we hope that we've given you the tools you need to achieve that goal in all of your future endeavors.
And we also hope that you can look back on these past 4 years with 20/20 vision and realize what is truly important: family who have supported you throughout your journey and the lifelong friendships you've made along the way. Remember the positive times and all of the everlasting memories you have made at the home of the Hawks.
Manchester Township, Class of 2020.
We are so excited to see you spread your wings and soar.
Good luck and congratulations.
I would like to introduce our superintendent, Mr. Trethewey.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome what I believe may be the largest audience to ever witness a graduation at Manchester Township High School. I know this is a very different graduation, but I want to thank and commend Mr. Adams, the high school administrators, and the committee for doing everything possible to make this special as a tribute to our very special class of 2020. I think we all have a tendency to look at the last few months and feel sorry for this class, and I do as well. But this situation has brought out the best in people, and it has shown that a lot of people really care about these seniors. Tonight, instead of the last 3 months, we need to focus on what these seniors have accomplished over the last 13 years in school. This is a commencement ceremony, and commencement means a beginning. We are here to celebrate our seniors as they begin the next phase of their life. Because of these past few months, these seniors, and really all of us, have been forced to take a step back from the normal and focus on what is really important in our lives. Because of this isolation, this class, more than any other class, now realizes just how much their parents care for them by seeing close up the sacrifices that their parents have made so that they can be successful. I want to personally thank the parents for putting their children first while still dealing with a life that has changed so drastically. These students are very lucky. Class of 2020, take a minute and thank your parents for all that they do for you. This class, more than any other class, now realizes how much our staff and administrators care about them by the way they all reached out and tried to make these last few months and this night special. I'm very proud of our staff and administrators here at Manchester. Now to the class of 2020, you're about to begin your adult life where your success or failure will depend on how well you overcome the obstacles that you will face from here on. You will find that some people look at obstacles they face in life and use these as excuses for failure, while successful people find a way to take on these obstacles, overcome them, and turn them into something better. That is what I hope all of you can learn from this situation. I know as the years pass, you will not remember all of the words said in these speeches today. So I want to leave you with one quick story that I hope you may remember from this night. 4 men were set to interview for a high-paying job with the president from a large company. Instead of an interview, they would be judged on overcoming a challenge. 2 men were placed in one room, and two men were placed in the other room. 10 $100 bills were placed in front of each of them, and they were told that the person who would able to get the most money in their shirt pocket would get the job. The only problem was that each man had a tight rubber sleeve put on each arm that prevented them from bending their elbow. Now, the first 2 men struggled and finally gave up because they couldn't bend their elbow, they couldn't put their money in their pocket. They complained the task was impossible. Meanwhile, the other 2 men came out of the room and both had 10 $100 bills in their pocket. When the president asked how this was accomplished, they said, since we couldn't bend our elbows, it was impossible to put the money in our own pocket. So we each took turns, turning with our arms locked, and placed the money in the other person's pocket. The president was so impressed that he gave both of them the high-paying positions in the company. All 4 were faced with the same situation. 2 complained and failed, and 2 found a way to succeed. You see, it's not the situation, it's how you deal with it. President Harry Truman said a pessimist is one who makes difficulties out of opportunities, and an optimist is one who makes opportunities out of his difficulties. Be an optimist. The class of 2020 is really a unique class, but you're also part of a great tradition, as you always will be Manchester Hawks. That's something you could all be proud of. You can look back at some of the things that you missed out on, and that's unfortunate. But I hope you look back at this experience and realize that no matter what life throws at you, you can be successful because you've proved it. But also look back and, more importantly, remember how your parents, the staff, and your friends have reached out to help you in a difficult time because you are special to them. That's what's really important. I want to congratulate the class of 2020 on what you have accomplished, but more importantly, what you will accomplish, and wish you all the luck and success because you certainly have earned it. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Trethewey. Representing the Manchester Township Board of Education, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Brian Jenner.
Good evening. Mr. Trethewey, members of the Board of Education, administrators, faculty, staff, friends and family, and finally, the class of 2020. My name is Brian Jenner, and on behalf of the entire Board of Education, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate all of you on this very special graduation ceremony. The class of 2020 is an immensely unique class. You were all born in the weeks and months after the most horrific terrorist attack in the United States in modern times. The attacks on the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and the plane that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on 9/11/2001. You were in 4th grade during Superstorm Sandy that caused so much damage and despair here at the Jersey Shore area in 2012, and now here you are graduating during a global pandemic known as coronavirus or COVID-19. Yet despite these adverse experiences, you have persevered in so many areas. Many of you succeeded with our athletic programs, others with our finer performing arts programs, or through one of the many clubs and activities Manchester has offered. You have all worked hard through your academics, developing your interests in areas that may affect your life goals. As I reflect on the graduates, I stop to think about the direction you will individually take. Many of you will continue with your education in various colleges throughout the country. Others of you will take on the challenge of defending our country by serving in one of the branches of our military. And yet, others of you are ready to move on into the workforce or trade or vocational schooling right away. Regardless of your chosen course, you must forge a path and lead. Leadership is, by definition, the office or position of a leader or having the capacity to lead. It also is the act or an instance of leading. According to Mike Myatt, a Fortune 500 leadership advisor, at its essence, leadership isn't a job, it's a choice. Everything about leadership begins with a choice, even accepting a leadership role. Whether leaders are elected, appointed, anointed, or self-proclaimed, and regardless of whether it is by design or default, at some level, you will make a choice to be a leader. Once you make that choice, you must choose whether or not to lead well. The opportunity for you to all be leaders is there. It is up to you to take that opportunity. You have all heard about forging your own path. Don't be a follower, be a leader. This will help you become successful. Success is what you have achieved thus far. You have successfully graduated high school. But what of your future successes? What do you hope to achieve, and what is it you want to be known and remembered for? For me, I achieved my success as a teacher. For 33 years, I served as a music educator. Sometimes I was referred to as the band leader. I never really grasped that title until many years into my career. I have taught every grade level from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I even had the opportunity to lead college students who would perform in front of tens of thousands of people in person and on television. I've had my groups perform in small arenas and large stadiums, but the pinnacle for me happened a couple years ago when I was able to bring my band to perform at a basketball game in Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world. You see, I was the band director at Monmouth University, and we were playing the University of Kentucky in men's basketball at Madison Square Garden. This was the place that I had seen numerous concerts, sporting events, both in person and on television. The game was being broadcast nationally on ESPN. This was an amazing experience for me, and to look at my students' faces made it all worth it. In my opinion, I achieved the top prize of my career and did so as the leader of the band. Did this make me successful? Did this matter to anybody not associated with my program? It made me successful in achieving my goals as a band director. And no, nobody outside the program really thought much about it, I would guess. But I had achieved that level of success for myself, and that's what I encourage you to do. Set goals, both short and long term. Make sure you write them in pencil and always have an eraser nearby. Your goals and visions may change. You want to be able to adjust those goals when the time comes. Now, I look back at the thousands of students I had over the years. Some became famous, others went about their business and have goals that they have already achieved or are in the process of achieving. But they achieve them, and how they may alter their path is up to them. One of the more successful baseball players in modern times is Derek Jeter. Derek played his entire 20-year career for the New York Yankees. The Yankees drafted Derek Jeter right out of high school. And during his time with the Yankees, he won 5 World Series championships. But does that mean the other 15 years were failures? No. Derek Jeter has a list of 10 steps to achieve success. Here they are. Set your goals high. Deal with growing pains. Find the right role models. Help others. Don't be afraid to fail. Have a strong support system. Be serious, but have fun. Think before you act, and be a leader and follow the leader. Finally, life is a daily challenge, and no matter where you are in reaching your goals, you will be met with challenges every day. How you respond to those challenges is up to you. The fictional character Rocky Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, in numerous movies of the underdog fighter, had a philosophy about winning. This is it. He said, let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't how hard you hit, it's how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. So you're better than all of this that you've had to deal with on the negative side. There's many positive things too. And I encourage you all to rise up and do what you need to do to be leaders. On behalf of all of us with the Manchester Board of Education, let me say congratulations on your graduation from Manchester Township High School and best wishes on your future goals and aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Now I would like to say a brief message to our class of 2020. I would like to thank all the parents, guardians, grandparents, family, and friends for your positive influence over our graduating seniors. I also would like to thank our superintendent and Board of Education. As we honor the class of 2020, I wanted to leave you with a brief message of inspiration. This year, we were faced with a lot of adversity. Though your year wasn't the storybook ending, your class will never be forgotten, and you will continue to rise against every challenge that you face. I thought of some words that remind me of this class. You are resilient, you are strong, you're spirited, irrepressible, persistent, and a class full of leaders. I believe all these qualities are what define you as a class. Your ability to thrive through adversity will prepare you for a successful future. You are the class, the special class that will have a place in history. Your purpose, your gifts, your dreams, your talents will positively contribute to our country. I also want you to think about, as you continue your journey, the questions that may arise. What's next for me? What if I fail? Can I really do this? Is this the right career for me? All these questions are normal, but as the class of 2020, you have already faced adversity. You've already overcome so much. I'm just going to leave you with a few things to think about as those questions arise. Be committed to yourself. Always strive to become a better you. Don't ever forget that you're brilliant, you're talented, unique, and full of untapped potential. Tonight is your shining moment. Be proud of your Manchester roots, as we are extremely proud of you. Stay humble, work hard, and most of all, always remember, once a hawk, always a hawk. Congratulations to you and to your family in all your future endeavors. Thank you. Mr. Trethewey, Mr. Pate, Board of Education members, it is my distinct honor to present to you the 44th graduating class of Manchester Township High School, the class of 2020. I certify that these students have met all the requirements of the state of New Jersey and the Department of Education, along with the Manchester Township School District, and you are eligible to receive your diplomas.
Amara Kakam. Carl Bermudez. Jade Victoria Wickham. Sia Talia Yvonne Jenkins. Giovanni L. Acevedo. Julia Loren McAndrew. Brian Paolo Desiderio Arce. Brian Piolo Desiderio Arce. Alexa Lynn Bachonsky. Gabrielle Faith Wetzel. Dylan James Batesel. Kiara Alvarado. James Andrew Bennett. Alexis Christine Anderson. Dominic Alexander Bitar. Tyler Bryant Brockmeyer. Serenity Jadis Irene Anderson. Teresa Mary Aquilina. Jeremy J. Ryan.
Right this way, Jeremy. Just right on the exit.
Kayla Lynn Baca. Sean Patrick Brand Jr. Kelly Lee Curtis. Russell Lay Bacamel. Dante. Javon Jason Elijah Burton. Natalia Vahanowitz. Romello Marsalis Bush. Gabrielle Maria Volkius. Cole Campbell. Casey Campbell. Tashana Aaliyah Benjamin. Joseph Anthony Carcietta. Heather Marie Berge. Nicholas Joseph Chiapizzi.
Hold it up, Nick. All right.
Ariel Blumensteel. Jack Thomas Coleman. Cody Michael Critelli. Aiden Connor Curry. Amani Marie Gregg. Ebony Siobhan Boone Bryan. Renee Ray. Thomas Luke Davis. Megan Brennan. Derek Josue Dominguez. Skylar Marie Britton. Kevin Joseph Drehos.
Good job.
Dea Bulwag. Anthony Edward Chase. Lacey Marie Cayanillo.
Make sure the letters are facing out. Stand right there. Smile nice for the camera.
Andrew James Early III.
Good job, Andrew. Good job, kid. We're going to go up the ramp and stand on the X.
Sierra Sanaya Caicedo. Christopher Edward Euler. Kaylee Calderon. Craig Farmer. Marissa Ann Campana. Connor Richard Farino. Darrow III. Gracie Helena Carbone. Robert R. Garcia. Allison M. Chilemi. Julie Ann Child. Amanda Nicole Cherico. Jordan Alexander Gonzalez. Matthew Peter Umlauf Giles. Elizabeth Victoria Choker. Joshua Malachi Hayes. Layla Marilyn Sitta. Raymond Vincent Herbert. Shayla Lashray Clark. Nathaniel C. Hills.
Hey.
Destiny R. Conger. Asim Sadiq Hines. Abigail Hannah Cook. Brian Andrew Hoskins. Michael Rudolph Humeni. Ariana Patrice Curtin. Michaela Davis. Alexis Kathleen Demenza.
Thank you.
Eduardo Pareggi. Emily Mora Dolan. Kevin Scott Jenner, presented by his father, Board of Education member, Mr. Brian Jenner.
How are we doing, Lisa?
Tyler Graham Houston. Jasmine Emma Doler. James Michael Johns Jr. Marcus Isaiah Hunter. Sarah Rose Donahue. Jacob Josephic. Rory Anna Dunkley. Dean R. Carroll. Lizabel Veronica Escobar. Kevin Kemraj. Kylie Elizabeth Farrell. Brandon Joseph Kitty. Deanna Pizarro.
Go get him, Derek.
Derek Allen Kiddes. Nicole Ann Figueroa. Jared Kilfeather. Tyler John King.
Yay!
Madison Forby. Kenneth Peter Scarabaggio. Hannah Nicole Gibbons. Billy Q-Michael.
Yay, Billy.
Desiree Amanda Gilby. Dylan Ronald Kyle.
Exactly what he said.
Austin Laporte. Lance Laporte. Erica Y. Gonzalez. Cassidy Ray Gravatt. Natasha Green. Angel Leal. Sierra Lynn Gregory.
Go girl. He's falling down
Jake Dalton Lindstrom. Quinn Kelly Griffin. Jack Ryan Lynch. Shanoya Lee Griffin.
Love you, doll.
Kyle Brian Macnack. Candace Marie Grod. Hayden M. McLean.
Yes, I did.
Cassandra Grom.
Are we able to get a picture?
Lucas James Malden.
You're done.
Andrea Rose Ginnell. Richard S. Mariotti. Nikaylee Amaya Hayes Jones. Frankie Xavier Marrero. Amani Nyasia Star Hodges. John Kevin Mayer Jr. Alexis Jada Jackson. Dylan Kenneth McCarthy. Jasmine Johnson. Sean Michael McIntyre. Serena Marie Jordan. Marcus D. Mighty. Kayla Joyner Landisberg. Luke William Milius. Amy Jo Kaufman. Anthony Joseph Natoli. Kevin Christopher Newnham. Zani Key. Marissa Diane Knipple. Deanna Marie Kyle. Gavin Michael Nolan. Victoria Rose Lebrecq. Chijoke Richard Okose. Xiao Li. Nicholas J. Oliver. Michaela Longsworth. Joseph Edward Otriba. Morgan Elizabeth Lyons. Louis Arthur Ott Jr. Morgan Paige McGonigal.
Congratulations, buddy. Love you.
Love you, Morgan.
Jordan Pasquale. Elizabeth Michelle Mitchell. Brett Tyler Pipperato. Riley Rose Murray. Tanner Stephen Poss.
She knows.
Brooke Alyssa Olson. Jalen Maria Padilla. Jaslyn Rose Padilla. Matthew Ganesh Ramlakan. Skylar Joseph Richards. Nina Rose Palmiato. Eric Riddick. Leanne Equibon Pasqua. Timothy Trevor Rodriguez. Jaden Isabella Passos. Amanda Hattie. Valentina Marlene Perez Maximiliano. Dominic M. Salvatore. Zoe Perozzi. Dorian Sabato Russo. Corinne Nicole Petty. George Santiago Jr. Emily Catherine Plumitsakos. Evan Elijah Scala. Carly Faith Polchak. Nikki Rasmussen. Timothy John Skates. Kimari Reynolds. Daniel Robert Schultz. Claire Delaney Saeed. Corinne Saliski. Isaiah Rashawn Shabazz. Samantha Rose Saldamini. David William Scott Jr.
Love you.
William J. Sloan. Gianna Marie Santana. Daniel Mark Smith. Adriana Elizabeth Santos. Jason A. Smith. Samantha Lynn Shadwell. Shane Michael Smith. Sophia Rose Schmidt. William John Soul Jr. Crystal Nicole Sears. Anthony Michael Sorensen. Victoria Jen Shaw. Jake Maxwell Spano. Nicole A. Sinton. Robert Christopher Suter Jr. Elena Ann Spears. Honey Stoops. Corinne Barbara Stegmeyer. Nikita Stetsky.
Oh, two got that.
Christina Soto. Kevin Omar Toro. Stephanie Triana. Dominic Joseph Traz. Gabriella Chapizer. Ashanti Turner. Jason Arthur you. Christina Volante. Tyleek Trotman. Rihanna Valenti. Jake Robert Van Wagner.
Love you, buddy.
Kaya Lynn Dowling White. Amanda Rose Winter. Patrick Butts. Frank Walker Jr. Neslahan Yildirim. Annalisa Zolizzi, presented by Board of Education member Mrs. Jennifer Hudak. Xavier Jamar Williams. Jonathan Wilson Jr. David Christopher Schutch. Devin Zama.
Come on up, Ryan.
Ryan Patrick Sagnes. Thomas Michael Zuzak Jr. Fallon Elizabeth Burton. Ethan Charles Engels. Christopher Andrew Tabusi. Jared Hill.
Before we all race towards Hawks Way, formerly known as Colonial Drive for the last time, I would like to thank those who have dedicated their professional lives to our success. Thank you to the Board of Education, our staff and administrators for their unconditional support throughout the past 4 years. Their dedication to Manchester and its students have impacted all of us in one way or another, guiding us towards our individual path to growth and success. Thank you, friends and family, for your unwavering love and faith for our graduating class. You have shown endearment and devotion, especially during this pandemic, and it does not go unnoticed. From the signs, banners, gifts, and even games that have lifted our spirits and reminded us that we are loved, even from 6 feet apart. Lastly, I would like to thank the class of 2020 for the friendships, memories, and lessons. You've shown me what resilience means. High school isn't easy. Each of us has influenced growth in one another and have given us stories to share and laugh about later in life. In regular circumstances, we would all be throwing our caps in unison. Since we aren't able to do that, I would like each of us to reflect on the times we have most felt united. Through the ups and downs, our classmates, friends, families, and staff here at Manchester have never failed to show up when we needed them most. I leave you with our school motto, once a Hawk, always a Hawk. With that said, I present to you the class of 2020. Congratulations, Hawks. Stay safe and continue to forge your own path.
Graduates of the class of 2020, congratulations.
At this time, please move your tassels.